Welcome back. We're discussing toxic masculinity. Oh, what a phrase. And joining me is Lynne Cohen and also Peter Shawn Taylor, both who contributed to a three-part series at the C2C Journal. Lynne, I asked this question. We kind of ran out of time before commercial. I'm going to ask it again. Why is masculinity demonized in our culture?
Because feminists, they want to dominate, they want to take over everything, and they can't. It's almost like they can't help themselves. There was one writer in the Washington Post who, and I quote, she says, "We have a right to hate you," and it's like a reaction to um, maybe centuries of what they felt was repression, which I don't agree with, but that's how they view it. And they teach that now. That's what they teach. My gosh, even the Boy Scouts aren't male anymore. Even it's they're taking over. Sorry, they want to take over everything masculine and make it in their image, which is a strong, woman, I am woman, hear me roar. To be honest with you, Tanya, I don't really understand it myself because I've never felt that way. I was actually surprised when they started women's studies while I was at university. I thought, wow, that's ridiculous. But anyway, Peter probably has more to say on that.
Well, Peter, I was going to ask you because we seem to be talking about various traits and characteristics associated with either men or women. So, what are the traits that separate men and women? I know this sounds very simple and basic, and we should all sort of have a knee-jerk response to that. But lay it out for us.
Well, sure, and it isn't just the countless songs and plays and poems and, comedy routines have been built around the differences between men and women, and it's sort of a joke almost, but, I mean, there's actually good, psychological research, what they call the five-factor model of, you give people a certain, set questions and you see how they respond, and there's a significant difference between how men and women tend to respond to this series of questions. And women tend to be more nurturing. They tend to be more conservative in that they're not willing to risk as much as men. Men tend to be more aggressive, not just in the notion of violence, but they tend to push boundaries. They tend to be much more competitive. That's a very key aspect of maleness. And these separate qualities are very important for society. Women, just by biological nature, are the ones that give birth, and they have more at stake with children, infants, and so they're naturally more risk averse because
Absolutely.
biologically um, uh, they don't want their infants to face any threats. Men, again, historically have been the ones that have gone out and hunted and gathered, et cetera, et cetera. So they tend to be the frontier pushers. So these are complementary attributes. And I think we're going through a period of time that's sort of lasting decades where we have elevated the feminist or the female attributes and we've denigrated the male
Mhm.
attributes. I think Lynn did quite a good job in her first two pieces in saying, this is what we're losing as a society by pathologizing masculine virtues.
Yeah, no, definitely. And to your point, Lynn, I remember one thing that you had written or one thing that you had said. You said men are also hardwired for competition and courage. Can you
Mhm.
explain that and expand on that and maybe give us some examples?
We all remember the horrible night when Donald Trump, as a candidate, was almost killed by a bullet, and he was shot in the ear. And a Mr. Comprador, I forget his first name, leapt over his family and died and saved their life because the uh, man with the gun was firing everywhere, and he
Mhm.
got killed. And he saved his wife and daughter, I believe. And I think many men at that event did the same thing. Men are almost automatic heroes when they need to be. Men, they make the best firemen. They make the best police officers. I'm against women being police officers. They make the best astronauts. They make the best everything. Truck drivers and they're architects and engineers and all the things that they they built Western civilization,
Wow.
and they did it for women. They did it for women. They built Western civilization, and we forget that, and we forget to be grateful for that and to thank them for that. And it's because of their internal drive and their intelligence and their intellectual superiority. I'm sorry, women, but that's what it is. They have the qualities that have made civilization possible.